At the same time, those devices have disrupted our relationships and made our workplaces more dysfunctional. Instead of strong bonds, we have weak ties. Instead of productive meetings, we have distractions. Technology has created an illusion that today's workers are highly connected to one another, when in reality most feel isolated from their colleagues. What they crave most, and what research increasingly shows to be the hallmark of the highest performing workplace cultures, is a sense of authentic connection with others. Technology addiction is increasing. This is especially true of younger employees who grew up with technology and are more likely to be early adopters. They happily use these devices to obtain instant gratification, alleviate stress, and receive personal validation. But there's a darker side to this technology use. On an episode of 60 Minutes, Tristan Harris, a former Google product manager, admitted that these devices are intentionally designed to make us addicted to them. Every time we pick up our phones, we're pulling a lever in the hope of winning an exciting reward, much like using a slot machine. Although it's tempting to think that Harris is speaking metaphorically about tech addiction, it's actually a very real thing. Every time we receive a text or status update, we get a jolt of dopamine in the pleasure system in our brains, the same system that controls addiction to drugs such as cocaine. Before smartphones existed, people spent an average of 18 minutes a day on their computers and other electronic devices. Today, we're up to a whopping 5 hours a day, during which we tap our phones an average of 2,600 times. About half of Americans are so addicted to their devices that they'd rather break a bone than their phones. Besides putting huge amounts of money into the pockets of device makers and technology companies, our addiction is reprogramming our minds and shaping our actions, feelings, and thoughts. It's also interfering with our relationships. Author and thought leader Simon Sinek has observed that when young people experience stress, they aren't turning to a person. They are turning to a device and social media that offer temporary relief. This coping mechanism has made us depressed, isolated, and less effective in our lives. Two global studies conducted by Future Workplace in partnership with Randstad found that what younger workers say they want has very little to do with how they actually behave. The majority of the 6,000 22 to 34-year-old workers polled in more than 10 countries told researchers that they prefer in-person communication to technology. Nevertheless, over a third spend approximately 30% of their personal and work time on Facebook. Instead of having in-person meetings and phone calls, we choose texting, instant messaging, and social networking. Many of my peers even become frustrated when someone calls and leaves a voicemail, which they view as an interruption. Workplace loneliness is spreading. When we rely on devices to connect with other humans, our relationships become weaker. Replacing human interactions with text messaging makes us lonely and unhappy. The result is an isolation epidemic that has reduced the percentage of people who say they have a close friend, and has left half of all Americans feeling lonely in their public lives. Dr. Vivek Murthy, a former Surgeon General of the United States, told me that loneliness and weak social connections are associated with a reduction in lifespan similar to that caused by smoking 15 cigarettes a day, and even greater than that associated with obesity. To be fulfilled at work, committed to our teams, and happy, we need to focus on building deeper relationships with the people around us. The famous Harvard Grant study by George Vaillant followed 268 Harvard undergraduates for 75 years, collecting data on multiple aspects of their lives at different time periods. Vaillant discovered that the best predictor of life satisfaction wasn't money or career success, it was strong relationships. A few researchers have studied the correlation between the loneliness that isolated employees feel and their commitment to their teams. The consensus is that having work friends and team camaraderie can make a huge difference when it comes to job performance, loyalty to the employer, and employees' overall well-being. At Wharton School of Business, Sigal Barsaid interviewed 672 employees and their 114